Good morning, good morning. It is a very bright, very bright, just got the sun in my eyes. Friday morning, it's Friday the 24th of January 2024. I hope I'm coming through loud and clear. I hope you can see me. I hope you can hear me. I hope my sound's not terrible. Big shout out to everyone in the chat. We've got Pete's Music in there. We've got Katrina Bryce. We've got Sarah Davis. And we've got C Dizzy Drizzle, which is a great name. We've got Reagan Elite in there. Hello. We've also got MH Carer, Leapshin, and Nick Gibbons. Yay! Saying yay. Now, it might be a bit janky today. I don't know. I'm having huge technical problems here in Liverpool, but spent most of yesterday trying to overcome them. So hopefully we'll have a 87% smooth show. We haven't dropped any frames so far, so that's good. Although the sun is probably going to get to a point where I'm like, I'm gonna have to go and close that curtain. In fact, I might do that in a moment. But before I do that, I just want to say, if you would like to join our friends in the chat over here, all you need to do is hit that subscribe button and wait for about 30 seconds or a minute, and then you'll be able to opine on what we're talking about. We're talking about climate change today, very topical as we are currently being plummeled by Storm Éowyn, and it was a huge. I mean, this morning I woke up at 6 with the wind absolutely howling here in Liverpool, and it's not that fast in Liverpool, so it's a bit scary, like how much faster it must be elsewhere. I'm gonna have to go and close that curtain because I can't do this with this really bright light shining in my face, with the heat of the sun, the brightness of the sun, because it is actually the sun. So I'm just gonna put the splash screen up for a moment, and then I'll come back. Okay, so don't go anywhere. Okay. Right, so long as the sun doesn't move in the sky, we'll be fine. Oh, that's better. Okay, the ad music was Bob Marley's Donut song. What? Oh, donuts. He likes it with jam in. See what you did there? That was good. I like it. And it's windy in Wales. Bins blown over, but not too bad. Yeah, we didn't bring our bins in before we left Durham, which is probably a stupid thing to do. So they're probably all over the road at the moment. And we have a trampoline. And this is the season. This is the time of year where someone either loses a trampoline or gains a trampoline, depending on where you live. Graham has destroyed the sun. Yeah, take that, sun. You naughty thing in the sky. So let's just talk about climate change. So first of all, obviously this week, the Orange Menace, the Orange Fascist, the dictator-in-chief of America, the Fuhrer, the Orange Nightmare, has declared that they're pulling out of the climate change agreement, and that they're also going to drill, baby, drill. He wants to put out lots of new licenses to drill for oil. Now, is there still hope? Because this is a very, very critical time for us to do something about climate change. As we all know, everyone watching this is at least halfway sensible. I like to think I'm halfway sensible. He's not even a half wit. He's a quarter wit. Anyway, but the facts are, like, first of all, cities and states in America are still going to take the lead on this. So despite the federal government trying to do everything in its power to curtail moves towards green energy and energy self-sufficiency, etc., you've got states like California, which is obviously really affected by climate change. You've got states like New York, which are very progressive comparatively for America, and they're pushing for very aggressive renewable energy targets, and they want climate regulations and all that kind of stuff. But and then we can expand that to say governments around the world are also doing action on this. China and the EU, most notably, they don't need America's permission to press on with green objectives. In fact, it's probably better if you don't wait for America's permission, because you're not going to get it under Trump. And as our COP meetings all have to be bloody consensus-led for some stupid reason. Oh, no, because of Saudi Arabia, one of the world's biggest oil states, one of the biggest oil exporters in the world, a country that is not great Not great, Saudi Arabia. Gotta say, spent a couple of weeks there, met some nice people. Met a guy who let me on his boat to go over to Eritrea. He looked a bit like the Kurgan from Highlander, but you know, Clancy Brown. But he was a nice guy, you know. I bribed him with dates. That's what you do. There's no alcohol there. Normally, I'd turn up at a shipping office with a bottle of Johnny Walker or something, but no, I couldn't do that in Saudi Arabia. So it was dates or nothing. So I went to this kind of like Thornton's, but for dates. You know, so instead of chocolates, it was all like dates and lovely packaging and with different flavors on and different. You don't care. Anyway, Saudi Arabia itself, very, very problematic country, a country where democracy doesn't exist, where women don't have rights, where gay people are hung routinely, where there is a lot of sexual abuse that goes on, not just towards women, but also towards children. It's a really tough place, okay? And they shouldn't really be the moral arbiters of the way forward, considering that 87% of their economy is based on oil. But here's the thing, right? I look at the... So I'll take you back to me growing up. So when I was 11 and started in secondary school, I would spend every Saturday morning going to my dad's shop and working, basically. I had to answer the phone, right? I had to answer the phone. It's like a little kid going, hello. And it was a carburetor shop. Get a better carburetor. Come on. You know, this is where I get it from. Thanks, Dad. It was great for a few years, especially through the 80s and then through the 90s. But then fuel injection started coming in. And so my dad had a choice whether to change what he was doing, change what he was selling to something else, or retiring. And he chose to retire. He was 70 years old. He decided to retire. And I tell you this because this is the way the world works. There is a technology that is there that goes out of fashion after a while. Not out of fashion, but out of use, because there's a cheaper, better, more sensible alternative, right? So think of typewriters versus web processors. Think about Kodak. I often think about Kodak. I probably think about Kodak more than I reasonably should, because Kodak is the great American... What's the opposite of success? Like... abject failure story, heroic failure story. I mean, this is a case of one of the biggest companies in America. I think in the 1980s, Kodak was only second to like Coca-Cola. It was huge. You have to understand that they made the film for basically nearly all the cameras in the world at the time. And they had patents on certain dyes and chemicals that were used in the processing. That a lot of the when you used to take your film to Max Spielman to get developed, to find out just how out of focus and shit all the pictures were, that big machine that they would use to process the films would be from Kodak normally. Like, it could be from Fujifilm, or I know there were different companies that did it, but Kodak was the big one. In fact, in the 1980s, the biggest importer of silver into America wasn't jewelry. You know, it wasn't what you might think it would be. No, it was actually Kodak, because they needed it for the silver nitrate, for the processing of their film. And the maddening thing is, Kodak invented the freaking digital camera, the CCD that we all have in our phones now, and on this camera that I'm filming this on, that was developed in the 1970s by a guy working for Kodak. But they buried it because they were like, oh no, if we let people have this, then they won't use film, and then we won't have as much money. So instead of investing more heavily into digital camera, digital film, digital technology, they shut it away. They threw it in a cupboard. Take it away. Take the bad thing away. And as a result, you know, they did really well in the 80s. But then in the 90s, you know, things started tailing off a little bit towards the end of the decade as DSLR cameras came in. But the first generation of DSLR cameras were shit, right? Digital single lens reflex cameras. They were crap. Okay, they were like 1 megapixel. They were. You could take a still from this video and it will be a better quality than the big cameras with the lens on the front, right? But within 1 decade, just 1 decade, from 2000 to 2010, right? That 1 decade, the market for optical prints was dead because of two things: digital SLR cameras for any professionals, but also now everyone had a camera on their phone, on their smartphones. The rise of smartphones meant the death of it. And it was interesting, sort of, traveling around Africa at the time, where you would take a photo on a camera, and the kids would expect to see the photo on the back of the camera. So if you turned up with an old-fashioned film camera, like old school, to get the grain, to get the, take the photo of it, and and there's an art to it. And I'm not saying that there isn't, but it's very specialist. You have to be really, really good at doing it to get it done properly. Anyway, so you take a photo of some kids. They'll want to see the back. Can we see the back of the picture, the back of the camera? They want to see what the picture looks like. And you go, oh no, sorry, it's a film camera. And at the same time that we, as consumers, were not using film anymore, film wasn't used in film anymore. After Star Wars Episode 2, which came out in 2002, nearly all major blockbusters started moving more and more to digital and away from film because film has problems. And I'll tell you what they are in a moment. First of all, I'm going to say a big thank you to One Angry Pagan for the £5 super chat. We had Thor striking his anvil down here yesterday. A rather vigorous storm, if I do say myself. Flood defences must be reinforced. More to come. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I need to go back to my island and build more, build another wall, build a higher wall. That's got to go on now forever. Thanks to Trump's back in. Ned Gibbons, Kodak and Xerox both developed on huge amounts of technologies and basically sat on them. Yeah, so Kodak had the patents on certain pigments, like certain colours. They had the right to make that colour, and no one else did. And that sounds mad, but they had that. Certain chemicals, certain compounds that they used, they had the patent on it. So no one else could use it. But with that patent, they could have made every single photo printer in the world. I know Kodak made a few photo printers, but they were shit. And they never got up to the levels of HP or Epson when it comes to making printers. They never capitalized on it. And Kodak just went the way of the dinosaurs. One of the most valuable companies in the world just disappeared. It's still there. I mean, they do specialist stuff now, but it's very rare. I just want to talk, just one sec, just because I want to talk about this. So I cut my teeth as a digital filmmaker. So when I started making short films and comedy sketches and daft shit, when I was in university in the late 90s, Adobe Premiere was still at version 3.0 or something, and it wasn't pro yet. And it was the beginning of non-linear editing that you could do at home. Up to that point, if you wanted to edit a video, unless you wanted to do it on two VHS players, it just made it look shit because you got all the static coming down between scenes and stuff. You couldn't get a nice cut. You can never get a nice cut playing with videotapes. But yeah, if you wanted to do a bit of non-linear editing, you needed to use a non-linear editing suite, which would cost you up to £1,000 a day to hire out. Okay. You can do this on your phone now. Everyone can if they want. But, it used to be £1,000 a day. And then in the late 90s, because Sony brought out the Digital 8 cameras and the mini DV tapes came out as well, with the Firewire ports that allowed you to digitally, because up to that point it had all been optical, up to that analog, and then finally it made the switch to digital, and it was SD. I mean, it wasn't great. It was 480 for America. It was 576 lines for us in PAL regions. But the thing is, it made it so much easier to put a little sketch together, put a little film together, put a music video together, because you could do it on your home PC, and it was phenomenal. It was brilliant. And do special effects on it and work with the sound and do all that kind of stuff, right? Fantastic. Now, so I for the first 10 years out of university, I was making videos, I was doing corporate work, I was doing all this kind of stuff. And then I got the call from Lonely Planet saying, and then I went off and did that. And, but when I was traveling, I had a extended stay in Australia. The reason for this was because I'd lost my sister and I didn't feel like getting back on the horse just yet, going out into Papua New Guinea on my own. Didn't seem like that great an idea. One of the guys who was there in Australia with us was a guy called Rocco Forte. Rocco Forte, he's a porno star, isn't it? Rocco Fasano. And Rocco was my camera op from Lonely Planet when I was travelling through West Africa. So we travelled through Ghana, Togo, Benin, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and Cameroon, and Gabon together. And Equatorial Guinea, and he lived in Melbourne. The production company was in Melbourne, but he was a freelancer, and he gave me a call over that summer or winter because it was Australia, and he said, I'm working on a short film as a camera op, and I could do with an assist. Would you want to do this? I know you're looking for stuff to do, and I was like, yeah, sure. I didn't get paid for it or nothing, I wasn't working under the radar. Don't worry, don't come for me, the Australian authorities. But anyway, so it was a short film shot on 16mm film, and I had no idea just how mental optical prints are, because this is something that I'd say about a film like Apocalypse Now, where apparently it was insane, the shoot was a nightmare, everything that could go wrong went wrong, and everyone was off their tits on PCP or something, right? But there must have been at least one person who knew what the hell they were doing on that shoot, and that was the person who loaded the film magazines, because you have to take a bag with you, and it's got gloves inside. When you see when scientists are playing with dangerous chemicals and they have the rubber gloves and they put the hands in the rubber gloves and there's glass between them and the dangerous thing and they operate it. Sometimes get it on the crystal maze. A bit like that. It's a bag with gloves in, and you basically have to put you get your tin of film, you put that in the bag, then you get the magazine, you open it up, put it in the bag, open it up, and then you have to zip up the bag so no light gets onto the film, okay? No light gets onto the film whatsoever. And then you have to take it out, just by feel, you have to take out the reel of film, and you have to load it into the magazine and feed it through and close it up properly, and then unzip the bag and just hope you've done it right. Because if you haven't done it right, you've just ruined that roll of film, which can cost hundreds of pounds per roll, right? But then it gets worse. Once you've shot the shot, you've got to take the film out of the magazine and put it back in the reel. In the dark bag. I mean, the stress of doing this, where you've got a set we had about 30 actors. There were some kid actors there as well, with their mums, and it was they filmed the scene and they did it a few times because they wanted to get the best, acting. And then, it's, here's the film, here's the camera, Graham, take the film out and put it in this canister in the dark by feel. And I'm like, no responsibility. Literally everyone in this room's day will be ruined if I fuck this up. So you imagine just how much digital takes away from this. The reason why I've got on this mad tangent about my dad's carburetor shop, about Kodak, about how difficult it is to load film into video film cameras, is because that is the way that the oil industry is going. The oil industry is going the way of the dinosaurs. Slightly ironically, although it isn't dinosaur juice. I know it's an easy way of thinking about oil. It's not really dinosaur juice. Don't at me, one angry pagan. I know. It's just an expression. But they are going the way of the dinosaurs, and so as a result of that, the market momentum for renewables, I mean, it's already almost unstoppable, because the cost of solar and of wind energy has just plummeted. It's just through the floor in the last few years, and it's made them way cheaper than fossil fuels in many circumstances. And I've done the whole thing before, and I'm not going to do it again, where I explain all the steps that it takes to get oil out of under the water off the coast of Nigeria all the way into your car. That is a journey. That is one fuck of a journey. And yet, what's the alternative? Effectively, I know it's not quite this simple, but it is. Plug your car in and you get energy from the wind at the speed of light. Transported along wires. Not transported by big shipping containers, tankers, the Exxon Valdez. Not transported across the country by big HGVs, 40-foot trailer HGVs with that cause accidents and put bloody potholes in the road. No, none of that. Just a wire You just need a big, thick wire. There you go. There's your power. Put that in your car. And here's the thing, and I keep saying this. We're on Octopus Energy. We've got a smart meter. We're on Octopus Energy. It doesn't always work out as like we want it to, but when it is working, we can fill our car with energy overnight. You know, when no one else is using the power. We can fill it with energy to get to Liverpool for about £3. £3, my friends. £3. I was driving here yesterday and I saw the price of fuel on the M6. You wouldn't get 2 litres of fuel for £3. Just 2 litres on a motorway. So I know it's cheaper when you get off the motorway, but still, 2 litres. How far are you going to get on 2 litres? That's a bottle of pop, innit? Morning, Graham. Hey, Katrina. Thank you very much for the £10 super chat and saying, thanks for, glad you got your text sorted. I'm glad I got my text sorted as well. Have a super chat animation. Hey, if you want to know more about what will happen with climate change, read The Uninhabitable Earth by David Wallace Wells. Warning, it's scary. Well, I'm trying to not be scary this morning. I'm trying not to be scary, Graham. I'm trying to be like, no, actually, there are things positive that are happening at the moment concerning climate change, because the market is for renewables is, I think, unstoppable. Like, why would you go back? Where I think that climate change, and I don't like the term climate change, I don't like the term global warming. We need to talk about the fact that we're putting, what was it when I'm putting 2,000 times more energy onto the planet than the fucking big asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. We've put that energy in the system, and we're putting more and more energy in the system every year. We're not turning down the taps. We're actually opening the taps even more, flooding the atmosphere with CO2. What I think our side need is just better comms. And I could go on about comms for the rest of my life. The Democrats, Labour, Lib Dems, the Greens, better comms, please. Just sort out your freaking comms. Understand that turning up and saying, well, actually, if you look at the consideration of the square on the hypotenuse, you will see that by using the dilithium crystals at the right temperature and the right speed, you will end up getting gigathrusts of energy that you wouldn't get otherwise. Sorry, technobabble, I've turned off. I don't know what you're talking about. It's just bollocks to me. I'm not a scientist. We need stuff that doesn't necessarily have to be factual in the way that, we're explaining how a process works. It needs to be factual, like it's true. And it needs to be something that cuts through to people who don't give a shit, generally, okay? Or are a bit concerned. Because there's 2 types of people that we need to get through to here, right? First of all, the people who don't give a shit, right? We need visceral, emotional pleas, something that will get through to them, using saying about the future that their grandchildren are going to witness. And what would be really helpful, to go back to Katrina's point, if the Uninhabitable Earth, if that was made into a TV series with all your favourite soap actors in it, set in the year 2100, right? Or 20,000, 2000, 2100, right, at the end of the century, right? Let's say 2099. It's set in 2099. It's a cool number. Okay, so it's set in 2099, right? Which is only 74 years away, right? That's the point. Your grandchildren might live to see this. And you make it so you fall in love with the characters, like When the Wind Blows, and you show just how awful climate change will be. As a result of refugees, people losing their homes, people having no food, people dealing with flooding, people dealing with hurricanes, fires, everything else, right? And you make people fall in love with these characters, and then you fucking kill them, right? This is the way to do it. This is how to get through to people. You lull them in, and you're like, oh, look at these plucky survivors, and then just Blake Seven it at the end. Sorry, spoilers. Just have them all die. Just have them all fricking die. That's it. 6 feet under. Here's how they all die. Because that will wake a lot of people up. If you had a show like that on ITV at 8 o'clock with familiar faces from these soaps that people watch, they will watch it. They'll go, oh, this is quite interesting. Oh, this is what the world's going to be like in 2099. But we haven't done that. Why haven't we done that? I don't fricking know. But that would get through to the people who at the moment don't seem to care, don't seem to know. And then there's the other type of people, which I sometimes fall into this, and I try not to, so you may fall into this as well. disasterism, just going, oh well, it's all fucked now, there's nothing we can do about it. That's not a good route to go down. That is really not a good route to go down, because there's always something we can do. And just because we have now crossed the 1.5 degree of warming that we were very, very concerned about, just because we've crossed that doesn't mean that the future that the oil barons and Trump and the oligarchs and the Saudi royal family have laid out for us, that doesn't have to be our future. I mean, it's not great that we're having all these storms. The fifth named storm of the season. And it's, oh my God, like it's January, and we're having, again, we're having the storm of the century. How can we? How many storms of the century can we have in a decade? I just realised that Andrew Dixon has gifted 10 Politics Social memberships to our friends in the chat there. So thank you, welcome new members. And we've got Complex in there. We've got Richard E. Edgar. We've got John Mack. We've got Cassio. We've got Jules. We've got Alexander Niggy. We've got LU2D Games. We've got Steve's Midlife Crisis, spelled in a really wonderful way. And then we've got Catherine Moore. Have all been gifted memberships by Andrew Dixon. Thank you, Andrew. That's very, very kind of you. So, yeah, just to go back to what I was talking about there, the disasterism. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. There's always stuff we can do. And also, when bad things happen, there's no point in just going, oh shit, bad things have happened, I better just stay in bed. If you can help in your community to help vulnerable people and people in need, do it. Do that thing, do whatever is in your power to do. Because I don't get all touchy-feely here, because I'm not that type of host. But I do believe that most humans are decent. Most humans want to do the right thing. Sometimes people are led astray by their beliefs, by the cult that they might be in. If they're in the Brexit cult or the Trump cult, there's a bit of overlap there. There's a lot of overlap there. Then it might be a bit more difficult to get through to people. But the vast majority of people are concerned about climate change. They know it's happening, and they want to do something about it. And the difference between when you see a Hollywood movie and aliens invade, and finally the people of Palestine and Israel put down their weapons to fighting each other, and they lift them to the sky. Sorry, that's a bad analogy. They don't put down the weapons. They stop pointing their guns at each other and point them at the sky, at the flying saucers that are coming to blow their shit up. Right. So the idea is we have an external threat, and then humanity all bands together. That's essentially the plot of Watchmen. In reality, if aliens invaded, there'll be sod all we could do about it. Like, literally, bugger all that we could possibly do about it. Me and you. I mean, maybe if you can fly an F-16, great, Maybe if you've got a few nuclear weapons in your back pocket, you might be able to try and nuke them. But me and you, we can't do shit. But when it comes to climate change, we can all do a bit. We can all work together. This is our war. This is our conflict. This is our movement for everyone who's alive at the moment to do their bit. And if we all do a little bit, and I'm not saying we all need to go and live in a cave. That is meant line. It really pisses me off when the people on the right go, oh, you didn't fly around the world. Why don't you go and live in a cave? Or even better, oh, but you did fly to Panama, didn't you, you dirty hypocritical bastard? And I'm like, well, no. If you take a flight each year, that's not like the same damage as someone who takes literally 17 flights a week because they've got their own private jet, or because they have to be in meetings because, I don't know, they're too tight to pay for Zoom to last more than 40 minutes. I don't know. Anyway, so my point is that we can all do a little bit, and we damn well should. And even if it's just recycling, even if it's just using the car less, using a bit more public transport where you can, just thinking about your impact, right? And we all need to not get distracted by the bullshit greenwashing industry. I don't want to hear about people's carbon footprint, because that's putting the blame on us when most of the carbon emissions actually come from industry and come from the oil industry. I don't want to hear about carbon offsetting. I don't want to hear about carbon sinks. I don't want to hear about hydrogen. Forget it. Don't waste your energy debating over this or falling for it. It's all just greenwashing bullshit, okay? It's never going to happen. We have solar panels now. We have wind turbines now, and they freaking work. What else do we need? We need some storage. Do we need some storage? Sell more electric cars. Because when we have several million electric cars plugged in overnight, if we need some more power, we can take the power back out the electric cars. It will keep the whole nation going for a day and a half, just off the cars, if we have enough cars. Imagine that. No, there's no wind, there's no sun, no, we don't have any energy. It's never going to happen. We're one of the windiest places in the world. But, say it does. Say we have a very, very calm day that is also amazingly cloudy. I don't know how you put those two things together. Usually it's quite clear when it's not windy. But, yeah. We'll see. One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the super chat. One Angry Pagan, that is very kind of you. I got through to two middle-aged right-wingers in a pub in Newton Abbot by using the race course there as an example, as it's getting flooded more and more as climate change accelerates. Our train line too. Yeah, absolutely. And you can see it. I mean, I think this is why going over to the island, so the sun's back in my face. Stop moving, sun. I think this is one of the reasons why, people, when I talk about my island and the fact that it is going underwater, they can imagine that, because it's just a little island, do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, so the tide's going up. Yep, going up and up. Never used to be that high. If it was that high, there wouldn't be grass. There wouldn't be any grass, because how could the grass grow if it was getting flooded with salt water every day? But half the island's covered in grass. All of the island used to be covered in grass until a couple of years ago. So it makes it obvious. So that's good that you got through to someone, and that's something that all of us can do as well. Try and get through to a member of our family or colleague or neighbour, friend, whoever, who thinks that it's nonsense, and just get through to them and say, look, this is what's happening, and we can do something about it. Don't lose hope. John C, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Only just turned in, so probably missed you mentioning that Labour MPs being whipped to reject this morning's climate and nature bill. God help us. I'll talk about that with Phil later on this morning on the agenda. I've got to run now. I've got to run and go and get a power pack for my laptop because the one that I've got isn't working. Yeah, let me go and do that, and then I'll be back at 1 o'clock, hopefully, with a power pack if I can get the right one. But yeah, before I go, the other things that we've got are the corporate climate commitments that corporations have taken on, which they're not going to get rid of. We've also got grassroots movements and activism. Also, the courts can stop things that Trump wants to do, as they've already just stopped the 14th Amendment being repealed unilaterally, which is what he tried to do earlier this week with taking away the right of citizenship for people who are born in America. New technologies, obviously, and the fact that Trump's only got like a slender majority in the slenderest majority of one in the House of Representatives. Hopefully that'll gum up the works a little bit. And boycotts. That's the last one I want to say. Boycott the shit out of companies that don't give a shit about the environment, okay? Don't fall for their lies. Don't fall for their, touchy-feely bullshit. I think it was the 90s when BP, British Petroleum, officially changed its name, its initials. They did a backronism, is that what it's called? To Beyond Petroleum. Beyond Petrol, yeah. A future, and they changed their logo. It used to be a shield. Remember, it used to be a shield? They changed it to a green sun. Yeah, how's that going? Bastards. Hate them. Anyway, moving on. I've got to go. Let me go and get the new power supply while I still can. Will there be a show tonight? Sarah, if I can get a power pack tonight, there will be a show. It's as simple as that. If there's no power pack, I might not be able to do the show because I don't have enough electrons going into my laptop to make it run properly, and it just starts slowing down, and it goes really slow and junky, and it's got 64 gigabytes of RAM. How it can be this slow is beyond me, but it just needs to be plugged in. Right, okay, so thank you very, very much for the for the super chats. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for all your kind words over here. And I hope you have a great day. Like I say, I'll see you at 1 o'clock. If not, I'll see you at 9:30 tonight. 1 o'clock is the agenda with Phil Morehouse, and we'll be talking about the climate change bill and stuff like that. I don't know much about it, but I assume that it was introduced by another party, so they'll just vote it down because it's not their bill. That's pretty standard. But yeah, as words about Labour's handling of everything increase in terms. Oh, just dropped my phone. Increase in terms of What are you doing, Labour? What are you doing? I think it's I think it's going to get harder and harder for Phil to kind of justify what the fuck they're doing. But that's another story. Until next time, I'll say give us a like on the way out. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.